Garavito cried out for Duran to stop. The killer just couldn't take any more. This tape, made by Colombian authorities, registered the exact moment when the world's deadliest serial killer of children confessed his crimes.
Hey guys, and welcome back. The scumbag you just seen, the guy behind me, is Luis Garavito. He has 193 proven victims, mainly young boys, with a possible body count into the 300s. How did he get away with it for so long?
He was probably raped from age 6 to 16 or something, and he has chosen victims who are friendless and homeless as he was. He has put himself in place of the abusive parent or whoever it was who abused him.
Let's dive into it.
The Republic of Colombia, the fourth largest country in South America, has become widely known as one of the most violent nations on the continent. A country possessing significant natural resources in oil reserves, precious metals and coal, has been plagued by violence, inequality, political exclusion and corruption. These factors provided the breeding grounds for a bloody, decade-long civil war beginning in 1948 between the opposing Liberal and Conservative parties, which would become known as La Violencia. This bloody conflict would result in more than 200,000 people being brutally massacred with extreme violence. But even a country accustomed to such regular acts of violence would be shocked by the crimes of one man. A man who would ultimately become one of the world's most prolific and obscure serial killers in history. Born on January 25, 1957 in Genova, Luis Alfredo Garavito was the eldest of 7 brothers. The extremely violent atmosphere due to the political unrest only added to the societal and family tensions as the horrific civil war was finally coming to a close. Young Luis, as well as his mother Rosadelia and his younger siblings, suffered severe emotional and physical abuse at the hands of his religious father. His father continued to systematically abuse the family, in particular his eldest son, and his mother became emotionally removed from her children, lacking affection towards them. In 1964, 7-year-old Luis and his family were forced to leave Genova and relocated to Trujillo, Valle. This move was due to the intense growing violence between drug cartels, guerrilla movements, Colombian governments and paramilitary forces as they fight for control of Colombian territories. By 1969, still a victim to his father's beatings, Luis would fall victim to even further misery. The young boy would be violently raped by male neighbours at both 12 and 15 years of age. With no one to turn to for help, Luis Alfredo felt no choice but to remain silent and learn to live with the mental and physical torment. The mental burden resulted in Luis becoming withdrawn from his peers, which consequently led to him being bullied while attending school. He became aggressive and prone to violent outbursts after years of mental exploitation and manipulation. He also began to struggle with his sexuality, as his father had forbidden him from having female acquaintances growing up. After numerous relationship attempts with young women of his age, and failure to become aroused when intimate with them, he came to the realisation that he was attracted to those of the same sex. But his attraction was not towards his male peers, it was towards boys much younger than himself. His depraved sexual compulsions guided him to commit his first indecent act as a teen. While his younger brothers slept, he would fondle them for his own sexual pleasures. On another occasion, he attempted to molest a child at a train station before the young boy screamed for help. A teenage Louise would ultimately be arrested, but shortly after released and kicked out of the family home. Aged 16, Louise was now alone and required work to ensure his own upkeep and secured low-paid jobs on farms and in warehouses. He would spend his money on alcohol, which further damaged his character and exasperated his fickle temperament. The heavy alcohol consumption became an addiction, which resulted in him finding it difficult to work with others and hold a fixed job. By age 21, Louise was situated in the city of Armenia, where he found work in a bakery and soon after at a supermarket. He attended church faithfully and took part in Alcohol Anonymous meetings in an attempt to combat his drinking addiction. All things considered, his life seemed to have much improved in relation to its past discord. But his improved situation could not restrain his secret and perverted inner lust. Most days after work, he followed the same routine. He would buy some alcohol and make his way to the local park. Under the blanket of the night skies, the city became an evil underworld accommodating sinful vices. Poor peasant children were made to prostitute their bodies to feed the twisted appetites of the most dismal beings. This is where Louise would clench his secret thirst for children and drink into the early hours. When the sun rose, he would attend church to repent his sins, repeating the following extract taken from Romans chapter 7 verse 15.
¿Por qué lo hago? No lo entiendo. Estoy practicando lo que me gusta hacer, pero al mismo tiempo odio. Muchas veces se me ocurrió cuando los menores llegaban al supermercado a comprar algo. Siento un deseo, como siempre lo han llamado, una fuerza, un impulso, pero hasta con ese menor, acariciándolo, violarlo.
By mid-1980 to 1981, while employed at a supermarket, his sinful lust becoming uncontrollable until his inner demon overpowered him.
En la hora del almuerzo aproveché y fui a la ciudad vecina. Allí tuve acceso a varios menores de edad. Solo los acariciaba, los até, tomé sus ropas y los violé.
Over many months he continued the same routine, but his deviant acts soon failed to satisfy his growing needs. His next stop was valet.
De repente, no tuve más placer acariciarlos y violarlos. Empecé a llevar navajas, utilizar velas y encendedores para hacerles daño. Mordía sus pezones en los lados de sus nalgas y los quemé.
The inclusion of violence and dominance gave him intense sexual gratification, and with each victim the ferocity of his torture escalated. But in the company of himself, when the beast was tamed, his moral conscience would somehow find its way back to the surface. Louise would then weep and beg for forgiveness from God for his acts, repetitively reciting Bible verses. His faith seemed to fill his deep, guilty facets, temporarily restoring his moral conscience, allowing the beast to spawn again. In 1984, riddled with self-pity and resentment, 27-year-old Louise was admitted into a psychiatric unit. He would spend 33 days as a patient before doctors felt Louise was fit to return to the Colombian society.
Cuando me dieron permiso, llegué a Parole. Ahí encontré 2 niños y los llevé a través de una plantación de café y los até. Los despojé de sus ropas y me quité las mías. Los violé. ¿Y esos niños? Creo que los quemé, los golpeé y los dejé allí.
From 1980 to 1992, Louise continued to perform his despicable crimes, journeying through the coffee-growing regions of Colombia, once even being caught red-handed by a police officer in the act of sexually assaulting a minor. The future may have had a different outcome if it wasn't for the corrupt officer accepting a bribe from Louise avoiding capture. But it wasn't meant to be. By age 35, he had already raped and tortured close to 200 children and had not yet reached his criminal peak. The disfigured psyche of Louise manifested itself in the two books that he most frequently opened. His Holy Bible reinforced his moral sense of profound regret, felt in wake of fulfilling his demonic urges, whilst a small personal notebook cruelly recorded a catalogue of names and dates relating to his innocent victims he had forever left damaged. But Louise began to believe that there lived an evil force within him, dominating him. In light of the crimes he had committed, he began to accept the evil he truly was and wished to experiment with Satanism. The use of a Ouija board he felt would bridge the supernatural gap he was looking for. With skepticism, and whilst consuming a cheap bottle of brandy, he began to use the spirit board. Overcome with a sudden force he sensed surrounding him, he asked,
¿Qué quieres? Sí.
The deal was done.
While Garavito was out of his cell, detectives took DNA samples from his pillow and living area. The DNA found on the victims was a match to the DNA found in Garavito's cell. Garavito confessed to murdering about 140 children and was charged with killing 172 altogether throughout Colombia. He was found guilty on 138 of the 172 accounts. The others are ongoing. Garavito was sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison, the lengthiest sentence in Colombian history. However, Colombian justice has failed. Colombian law limits imprisonment to 40 years, and because Garavito helped police find the victims' bodies, his sentence was further reduced to 22 years. Garavito is currently serving his sentence in a maximum security prison in Colombia, as depicted in the photos here, along with some of his crime scene photos. He is held separately from all other prisoners because it is feared that he would be killed immediately if released with the other inmates. He will become eligible for parole this year in 2023 when he has served 3/5 of his sentence. And get this, he remains hopeful, having expressed the need to help abused children upon his release. Garavito is said to have 300 plus possible victims, with 193 now proven victims. I don't know how in the world anybody could ever release that back on the streets, and I feel sorry for the Colombian citizens that soon they will have to deal with this man, possibly this year. And to me, that is just, it's a disgrace. A disgrace to every citizen in Colombia and even Venezuela, where he's said to have victims. Tell me what you guys think. Hey guys, if you like watching my content, please subscribe to the video and like it. Share it with your friends if you want. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.